I'm going to stand by as I do not have my script yet. When we do this, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the republic
for
which
which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
indivisible,
indivisible, liberty and justice
for all.
Gotta sing.
Love that. Love the echo. That's always. So as chairman of the board of, by the way, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. As chairman of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Newton, New Hampshire, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe or listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Zoom conferencing software for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number, 929-205-6099. Meeting ID number is 869-075-36632. We're using the link provided. We previously gave the notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the conference call via phone. If anyone has a problem, please email bosecretary@newtonnh.net. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So what I'm going to do following the public agenda is we're going to do something different in that we haven't done this on Tuesday nights before, but we're going to ask Trish McCarthy as our EMD, Deputy EMD, to give us the rundown of what information's been flowing into the EOC as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Trish, if you would.
I will. And again, this is consolidated since we last spoke last Wednesday. I highlighted just the things that probably are pertinent to us. We always start out with numbers. So our numbers currently with COVID have tested positive with COVID are 7,004 persons in New Hampshire. That's up 143 since last Wednesday. However, recovered from these testings, these positive cases from COVID, is 6,302. So that's up 176 that actually have recovered since last Wednesday. Unfortunately, our deaths are 423. That's up 4 since last Wednesday. The biggest conversation going on with the EMDs, Secretary of State, the moderators, obviously, is what's going on with elections. An awful lot of conversations going back and forth with the EMDs and deliveries. Actually, Larry is going to pick up our delivery for elections tomorrow. We have no idea what's coming. They said bring a big truck, whatever that means, we have no idea. Also, the Joint Information Command said that the national news is actually focused on U.S. nursing home cases that unfortunately are up 80% in COVID as a rebound. They said local news is focused on the fact that UNH expects in-house virus testing labs within weeks. They're hoping to get that going. The state COVID numbers are good for opening of schools as we get closer, but obviously they're monitoring it and keeping an eye on it. We're also looking at Bike Week, Motorcycle Bike Week. The Health and Human Services for the state says there are 6 people in non-congregate housing. They're starting with the distribution of cloth masks to schools. and working to organize the warehouses. Again, a lot of this is focused around schools. I'm going to skip over our first responders. Let's see. Again, they're working. Military support is trying to help with the logistics of the PPEs and again with election distributions. Working with the Secretary of State to make sure that everything gets delivered in a timely fashion. I don't know if tomorrow is timely, considering this is only 2 weeks away. But then again, national news is focused on back to school plans, and locally news, Governor Sununu is focusing on his reopening school plan. Let me see what I can skip through here. You probably know that on the 13th, emergency order number 65 came out from the governor's office with some huge fines pertaining to people not following the emergency orders. And if you haven't seen them, I'll just give an outline. I'm not going to read the 3 pages, but civil penalties can be imposed for the following: failure to comply with any emergency order, rule, or regulation issued under the state of emergency and enforced by the Department of Health, and the fine will be $2,000 a day. They also said failure to cooperate in an investigation of a potential violation of the emergency orders will be $1,000 fine per day. They said failure to cease operations after being notified of a Department of Health violation will also be $1,000 a day. And failure to comply with Department of Health instructions after notification of a positive COVID-19 test result will also be $1,000 a day. And although he hates to do this, he's saying because our numbers are so good, law enforcement needs something to kind of wrap their arms around. And if we have, as you know, in the past, we've talked about some issues that we have without mentioning names or addresses. And it was very hard for us to do anything to that person when they said, tough, what are you going to do? So I'm going to work and I have COVID. So this now gives law enforcement, the health agent, emergency management, fire, and police something that they can actually use when they are, addressed with somebody who's being not cooperative. And that's my week update.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to segue right from that, since the kind of hot topic these days is elections. And September 8th is going to be our first challenge. And we have our town moderator who's been working hard with our town clerk and all the other folks involved in the elections. And as I understand it, Robert, you have some stuff to share with us.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I presented a first draft of a kind of a plan of what we will be doing in the, for the elections. I'm already looking ahead to the general election because that's, of course, a larger crowd and has some tougher requirements than the primary. Basically, we have a set of steps. They're outlined here. And of course, everyone's going to be involved, from all the stakeholders to selectmen, because of course, you're a vital part of this. And of course, the town clerk's office and the supervisors of the checklist, who up to now have been spared the details of this because they basically just need a safe, secure place to do their same-day registrations. So the approach, as we talked about before, first thing, encourage absentee voting. Second thing, move the polling place to the safety complex. We're going to be using the garage bays at the back of the police building, and for the general election, at least an outside tent. We might be able to get away without the outside tent, or maybe some, shall I say, locally acquired small outside tents as opposed to a commercial tent, because we need a smaller number of booths for the primary, and we're likely to have fewer voters. And again, as we discussed before, we're going to have the voters wait in their cars because that's safety. That's a safe, place to be. You're in your car, you're away from other people. And if it's raining, you're in your car, not standing outside in line. And then I have decided that one of the safest things we can do, based on the recommendations from the state, CDC, and other parties, is have a lot of ventilation. I proposed early on almost, why not have a polling place that's basically outside? I mean, but the state, has issues with that. But outside environments are something on the order of 20 times at least safer than inside environments. And so therefore we're going to be inside, but it's going to feel like it's outside, except it is going to be warm because we need, at least it'll be warm enough that it'll meet the statutory obligation that, the RSA states we have to have a warmed space. So
It'll probably snow. You realize that, right?
I know that, and I know we're courting bad weather by planning this way, but I'm kind of, I think the safety is going to trump the comfort. We're not going to be there a lot. The voters are not going to be there that long. They have shown time and time again in town here, they'll stand in line in a full bore blizzard, as we know from town elections. And so the idea that somebody's going to, spend a few minutes on a short ballot that doesn't have a lot of candidates on it in November when it's a little chillier than normal in the polling place, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I've also indicated, if we can scroll this here, that'd be great. On item 5, this is more kind of an inside business thing, but we're going to run both of our vote counting machines. Mary Jo astutely bought a second AccuVote machine a couple of years ago because we had one fail once in mid-election because the ballot was wet. And we learned at that point we need to have a spare. We're going to actually run the spare in parallel using it to process absentee ballots. So we can avoid that problem of kind of stalling the flow of voters and getting close to them when we have to take absentee ballots up. So we'll be kind of just running the two machines next to each other. That's very common in other polling places that have a lot of voters, that they have multiple AccuVotes, set up in parallel. And clearly if one breaks, then we'll be down to using just one, but this way we'll have our kind of spare up and running. And then of course, item 6, and I think the state is, I don't know what we're going to get, but I'm sure we're going to get plenty. Having ample supply of personal protective equipment for the people at the polls, the selectmen, the supervisors of the checklist, the town clerk and her assistant, my assistants, everybody that's there, the ballot clerks. And I'm going to note that among the selectmen and other people who are at the polls, if someone is concerned about some personal issue or something, they should feel comfortable bringing that up to myself, Mary Jo, or the other members of, say, the supervisors of the checklist, and we'll find some assignment for them that's consistent with what they're comfortable with. And I don't think it's a high-risk environment, but I also don't want people that, for one reason or another, are uncomfortable to be feeling that they have to be there. I know we have a statutory requirement for certain people to be there, including a quorum of the selectmen, but again, if there's some issue with anybody, we can certainly work with that. Most of the people, many people will be outside instead of inside, so that may not make for the most pleasant day if the weather doesn't cooperate, but you will not be facing any kind of risk from an interior kind of situation. Final item, of course, we have to encourage the voters to wear masks when possible, follow CDC guidelines about things like washing their hands and sanitizing their hands and that kind of thing, staying 6 feet apart from each other, unless they're in like a family. We have a little bit of a difficult situation in a polling place that we cannot, based on federal law, state law, and even the state constitution, we can't do anything which dissuades voters from voting. So while I don't think anyone would be irresponsible enough to, intentionally come to a polling place if they felt sick, it is difficult. We can't have the kind of screening requirement you might have in another location, right, where you might have to, ask a person questions, take their temperature, that kind of thing. We can't do that. So we want an environment which is as safe as possible for everyone, and that's why we're going to have a lot of ventilation. Of course, we're going to be wearing masks and normal personal protective equipment. Of course, we're hoping voters are all wearing a mask. It's possible people will arrive who are not wearing a mask because of an unusual disability or are not wearing a mask for some political reason. And we're going to have to work those through in the safest possible way with a minimum disruption and in a way that doesn't violate anybody's rights, but yet keeps everybody safe. So that's a kind of a thing I think polling places around the state are grappling with. we, as I mentioned before, are in a situation in a polling place that's far different from a lot of other scenarios. The case laws in New Hampshire from federal courts indicate that there is basically nothing we can do that might deter a voter in the slightest, right? So we need to be in a situation where we're pretty much accepting and accommodating to voters and dealing with, you know, for instance, any voter that has a disability, including one which might prevent them from wearing a mask, has a constitutional right to vote in the state of New Hampshire. So we have to do that. We will make it work, and we're going to make it safe for everyone, comfortable for everyone. And we're also going to offer the situation where for someone who gets to the polling place but feels that they don't want to go inside, then they can do on-site absentee voting, where they can actually vote absentee from their car. And in essence, they'll just hand an absentee ballot to myself or Mary Jo or one of the other election officials who will ferry it inside for them. So we have a full range for people that, whatever the circumstances are, they'll be able to vote either ahead of time absentee, in person in a voting booth, or by an absentee ballot in the parking lot. So the first category, and I'm going to go through it quickly because everybody can kind of read these. We want to get the message out on absentee voting. I think we've talked about that before. So let's sort of jump ahead if we can scroll down to location a little bit. I put issues here that I'm still trying to resolve, and some of them may be action items that the selectmen want to take up or that we can kind of think about. One is the issue of, if the weather's really bad, can we kind of close the garage doors part way so we're not taking as much rain in the top? And that's going to be a question for the police department to see how those doors work, or possibly, if that's an issue, maybe we want to have a tarp on standby, and our team from the road crew or something, we can get a tarp up there quickly, just on the top half of that door, because we really only need like the bottom 8 feet open, right? And the door is probably looks like a 15-foot door. Second item, restrooms for the election workers. I think we have a tentative plan for that over in the fire station, but it might be easier if we can do it in the police department. But that's just a kind of an internal logistics thing. I want to check to see if there's, and I didn't notice when I was there last time, if there's a way that we can close the main door after the polls close, particularly if it's cold at night and we're stuck there for a while. And I think that's something the selectmen on this call would probably appreciate as much as I would, and I know the town clerk would and the ballot clerks would. So that's a minor item. We are not going to be able to fit, I don't think, all the booths we need into the garage bay space that's available for the November election, because we're faced with a requirement by the state of one booth or other sort of tabletop voting location for every 100 voters, which is lower than the requirement significantly for other elections. And although moderators have been advocating very hard with the state for some form of waiver process, the way it stands right now, the only way you can get a waiver is show that you've received a large number of absentee ballots, and therefore you don't need that many booths. But by the time we know that, we don't have any more time to plan. We're not going to know that number to go up to the state for the waiver until days before the election. So from a practical point of view, it doesn't do any good, for me to get an email 48 hours before the election that says I don't need all my booths, right? Because by then I've already committed, I've got to have them set up and everything else. So we're going to have a challenge. I'm working through that. Trisha's helping me some. We're going to improvise our way through there. It is challenging though, because one of the issues is that we can't, the way our booths go together, they go together in groups, and we can't use adjacent booths in that group. So that means the actual physical number of booths we have is kind of tricky. But again, we're just going to have to come up with a scheme. We can do half of the booths can be tabletop, which is fine because we can always find tables and cut cardboard or foam core into the little U-shaped cardboard pieces we use on the tabletops. So that's kind of an issue. It's less of a problem for the primary, because there we only need to have a total of 22 booths, one of which is our disabled access booth. 10 can be regular booths and 11 can be tabletop booths. And we might be able to get that many into that the space, with like, 6-foot spacing between them, although even that's kind of a tight fit. So that's a challenge area. Why don't we just scroll down and look at the map? The other two items are pretty straightforward. The traffic flow for like the direction of vehicles is shown here in orange. This is an older photo. Obviously, they were still building the fire station then. This is a satellite photo. The yellow line indicates the direction of traffic that Chief Jewett thinks is the best way to move the cars around so they can kind of loop around the building so we get more cars off the road. The point where there's an arrow that says voter waiting line would be the kind of point where the people stop and wait. In other words, at that point, there'll be somebody directing traffic. And when a spot opens up in the parking area, which I've just shown schematically to the right of the firehouse, because that's about the right number of spots for booths. It's not exactly, but it's conceptually sort of an order of magnitude area. Then you'd go from waiting in line to go over to park, then walk back into the tent, which might be smaller on the primary or almost non-existent, but will be a pretty good sized tent on the general election. And then you check in, get your ballot, go into a booth, vote, come back out, and then walk back to your car. And the person who's sort of modulating the voters at the front of the line is kind of doing what we're all used to seeing election officials do at the front of the line in town hall, right? They're telling people, okay, it's your turn, go ahead. So that's a general process. We're not going to be able to separate off easily because we're going to have a line of cars, people that need to vote, to register to vote that day. So we're going to push very hard to get as many registrations as we can ahead of time. And then those people will also park in the parking area. They will go in, register to vote, and vote. So they'll work through the line like everybody else, but it will be a little slower process than we normally do where we kind of run them in parallel. So that's the main kind of idea for traffic flow. The cruisers, obviously, that normally live in those bays will be out, probably parked over by the where the construction equipment lives on that building on the side, so they can be used, driven if necessary, of course, during the course of the election. We have a little challenge I want to note for the selectmen so we can start thinking about this. The timing of the state election, the state primary on the 8th, is right after Labor Day. So we normally do our setup with the town crew the day before election. We got more setup to go here, so it's probably more, we got to move stuff like the booths. We're setting up in a place we haven't set up before. We're going to have to sort of improvise some. We may, if we can arrange it, want to think, and also I don't know if people get paid overtime to be working on Labor Day, but we may want to push back our setup maybe onto Saturday, or otherwise think about that. And that I haven't had a chance to talk to Chief Jewett about that yet, but because he's got his vehicles there, but it might be just a prudent plan to start a little earlier on the setup in case we run into difficulties, and more so because that way we're not doing it on Labor Day. And then of course we want to be basically set up so all we have to do on the morning of the primary is what we normally do with a poll opening. And then we'll go from there, and then we'll, if we can, we want to get out of that garage as soon as possible. Hopefully our crew can kind of get the teardown going that night while we're doing the sort of post-election processing, and gnawing on pizza while hanging around in the garage. So that's going to be, that's kind of the plan for the primary. I'm looking at Matt, who looks like he's holding his head like this is going to be an expedition. We'll get through it. And then the final area is just that we're going to follow all the guidelines. I can send copies of them over. They're quite similar to what the guidelines would be for in other places. There are some things from the CDC that the state has kind of already stepped ahead. We're using disposable pens, so people get to keep their pen. Everybody's going to get a placemat so that their ballot can get put down in the booth. There are suggested sequences of disinfecting polling places. We will clearly be doing that. It will be extremely difficult to do some parts of that in a way that people who have never been in a polling place seem to think it could be done. And that's some of the areas where we're going to have to be clever. We're going to have to get the cooperation of our voters, and we're really going to be happy if voters can vote absentee and try to reduce the total number of people who show up at the polling place. And then finally, we're going to be, my plan as of now is we're going to have a different technique for the checking of voting IDs and announcing the voter names. We've for years done a technique where we have one of our ballot clerks greeting people, you know, kind of takes their ID, says hello, reads their name off, looks at the ID, and does that whole process in a kind of fluid way. That's great because it helps, it's fun, moves people more quickly, but it has a disadvantage that it's not a good environment for the kind of circumstances we're in. So I'm working on a kind of a simple remote camera scheme. So you'll just walk up and put your ID down underneath a little camera. Our check-in person will see it in a big screen right in front of them. And the person then only has to say their name, which again, I wish they didn't have to, but we're gonna be mostly outside. And that again is a state law requirement they don't seem to want to budge on because you know, party observers might be at a polling place and want to see who's checking in. So that we're going to be doing that process a little differently, and hopefully it'll go quickly and efficiently. And again, it'll keep people, you know, spaced out a little bit during that check-in process. And then again, people are used to seeing a selectman, myself, one of the other people standing right next to that ballot box on the way out. I think this year it's going to be self-serve. It's going to be get your own I voted sticker and put your own ballot in because that's, again, there's a requirement that somebody's standing next to that machine. They're not going to be standing that close anymore. Somebody's going to be watching it, but you know, the current regulation is somebody's got to be within 48 inches of it. That's obviously not viable in the current circumstance. So that's my presentation. It's coming up quick, so we need to get rolling. I'm going to be going full speed ahead on this, so we're ready in time. But I would like the selectmen to kind of, since it's your crew, basically it's doing setup and stuff, to think through the proper timing for what's the best day on that weekend to make it happen. Because Mary Jo and I also have to schedule a absentee ballot processing ahead of time. So we need another day of the setup, you know, to pick another day for our activity. Thank you.
So thanks, Bob. A lot of work involved in this, obviously. I'd just like to say, you know, to the residents, nobody wants to have to do this. Like, we would like nothing more than to stage an election like we always do it, but this is the kind of steps we have to do it. Newton's not alone. Other towns will be doing stuff like this. Bob didn't start from scratch with a lot of this stuff. He's been meeting with other moderators, getting information, getting guidelines. So I appreciate all the work he's done. I'm sure the board does. And we're going to do the best we can. We hope people have patience with us. And so the rule number one, the bumper sticker, that we should make up 10,000 bumper stickers, is absentee voting is the way to go. And I think Mary Jo was on here one of the last times. She said, absentee voting has been happening in New Hampshire for like, what, 90 years or something crazy like that. And it works. And I've had to do it myself a couple of times. Won't be doing it this year because I'll be involved in this process, but I highly recommend it. And, but what's the rest of the board thinking? What's any questions from the rest of the board?
Hi, is Kate here? Can you hear me?
Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, great work. Thank you. I guess since this year is so different, I think we as a board and everyone needs to get together to get the message out. So have we discussed that yet? Because I'm a little late to this meeting. How are we going to make sure everyone in Newton knows where to go in the process that'll make it, or encourage them to absentee ballot? Is there anything new we can do beyond what we've done in the past to be helpful? I know we have that blinky board, you know, where it flashes. We could maybe put that up early so people are, everyone's aware.
Yeah, it's up already.
Oh, good. Thank you. Didn't see it.
Yeah, I think the way to go is obviously as you said, I kind of like that term, blinky board. The blinky board's going, this document updated or whatever should be on the website. Everybody gets, whenever Diane puts something up like that, that sends out umpteen billion emails, so people get the emails. And then I'm sure people will post this on Facebook so everybody can comment on it. We love those. And I say that sarcastically. And then we'll have it on cable. And then I think, what do you think, Bob, about probably a couple of days before the date we do, Trish can help us with the all-call system. But I don't think we should be doing the all-call too far in advance. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we talked a little in one of our last calls about getting the message out, and I think Kate's right. That's an essential thing to do. Obviously, we want to encourage absentee voting for anyone who has concerns and who just wants to make the process simple for this year. There are a lot of ways to do that. You can get the form right off the website. You can get in touch with Mary Jo, the town clerk's office. It is possible, and I would say likely, that there will be a time, not before the primary, but after the primary, when people are more concerned about the general election, where myself, Mary Jo, and perhaps the supervisors of the checklist will make ourselves available at some convenient outdoor location. So people who don't want to deal with sending forms through the mail, worrying about the mail, can get their application, fill out their application, get their ballot, back from the town clerk, do whatever they want to do voting wise, put it in an envelope and hand it back to me and the town clerk. And therefore it will be waiting for election day and they don't have to worry about the mail or anything like that. So we're going to do everything possible to support people voting in Newton any way they're comfortable with, and ensuring that their votes get to us, get counted, get processed just like they always would. In terms of the new address, yeah, it will be helpful. We should maybe put up some signs when we get a little closer to where the safety complex is for people who have never been there. That's probably a good idea for a sign in the post office, and maybe a sign at the transfer station on a nice weekend before the event. You may see me down there. That would be a way to get the information out. And I think we should do everything we can. People that participate in social media, who are on the board, or other people in the community, are welcome to, kind of put out straightforward information about, where we're going to be voting, standard times, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., drive down to the safety complex. That's where we'll be voting, and kind of just to start getting the word out. So I think that's a great idea, and we should all be doing that. And, we want a simple message to everybody that, yes, as Matt pointed out, it's going to be maybe a little slower. It's the first time we've done it this way. Maybe it will be, a learning experience for everybody, but everybody's going to get the vote. We're going to get the votes, tabulated and counted. And we might find out that it's better. I mean, maybe it's better to sit in the car for 10 minutes than stand out front in the rain. Who knows?
You never know. Anybody else on the board? Questions, concerns?
I just wanted to ask, are we planning on moving the Blinky board around town, or are we leaving it in its present location?
You can do whatever you guys want.
Because I'm thinking that maybe moving it around to, the east side, west side, north side kind of thing might be a good idea.
How about at the transfer station too?
Right?
Good one.
So essentially, once people see it going back and forth, they're gonna not pay attention to it anymore anyways. So move it to another location after like a week to get a new set of audience, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, I have a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
Are we gonna think about ordering at least a couple porta potties for the parking lot?
I'm glad you I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we're gonna have to think about doing that. And then also, I assume either the chiefs, El Cadino or Jewett, will allow the employees, the poll workers, to use their bathrooms, but but I think for residents, we need to have an option for them, porta potties. So I know Nancy has that in her Rolodex, right? So what are they, like $90 a day or something like that?
Yeah, around that, 120 for handicap, I think.
So I think we should get 2. What's everybody think?
I agree.
Good.
Somebody will need to let us know the location they're going to put them so we can tell the driver.
I'll put that on the list.
Okay,
That's a
And
good idea.
Save those receipts.
yep. The only other concern I have, Bob mentioned setting up the booths on Saturday. Transfer stations open Saturday and Sunday, and they're the ones that set them up. So just a thought.
So I was thinking the same thing. So I don't know if we could do it on Friday. I guess my main question is, normally when they set up the booths, they're setting them up in the same building we're storing them in, correct?
Right, right.
So we have an extra step here that requires them to be moved to the to the garage. So I think maybe if it makes sense to everybody, maybe if Nancy, you reached out to Pete and asked him what he thinks in terms of, typically it's his people that do it, when's their best availability, and then we need to come up. Bob, what do you think as far as, I mean, I've seen these things set up. When they're folded up, how many trucks do we need to get them there, I think is.
That's just, I think if you got a pickup truck, you're good. The only person I would also put in that loop is Chief Jewett, because it's his garage. And presumably it's, not a big problem for him to have a couple of days when the cruisers are outside because of other cars. But, I don't know, and it shouldn't, I mean, I'm guessing that it's not a big deal to have the cars out for a couple of days and have the booths just set up in there, kind of sitting there.
Mhm.
Certainly fine for the booths, but that, I mean, somebody's got to talk to him about that. In terms of how, how many days he wants how many days he can kind of give up his garage.
Right. So we need to talk to him about that, and we got a couple of trucks available, I think, if we need them. So, but so I think that's a question to be answered in probably our next meeting. But I do think Pete can tell us availability, and who knows, maybe he's got guys that can do it on Saturday if they do it early enough or late enough or whatever, I don't know. But
Okay. I'll check.
maybe he can tell us.
Chairman,
I have a quick question about the tent.
that's just what I was going to talk about.
Okay, go ahead, Trish, then you probably,
So, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the board, so Bob Dismelik and I were on the phone today, and we did talk about what we think we need for tents. Larry went onto the EOC. We got 9 different places that we could possibly get tents from, and we spent a lot of time talking to all these people. Unfortunately, a lot of these people are already committed to using tents for school openings. So we've got some issues with the primary, which left me with, out of 9, I'm looking at my notes here, I have 3 that actually 4 that said that they could help us. One of the 4 said not for September because they're already booked for schools. One of the 4 also said they're going to put holes in the pavement, and I said, no, that's not an option. We needed weights, concrete blocks, or sandbags, which the other company said they'd give us. So that narrowed down to, I just want to toss this out because the selectmen, you need to give Bob Dismelik and Mary Jo and I and Larry some guidance here. So one company that was very local, they're out of Plastow. To get a 60 by 30 tent, which is roughly what we think we need, lights, which go around the perimeter, sides, which we pay by the linear foot, came to $4,330. That doesn't include heaters, although I did get prices for heaters, which clearly we'll need in November. Not sure about September, but that is there. This particular company, they're completely engineered tents. They pass all the fire codes. I talked to the fire chief about it as well, so that I could ask the correct questions. So this company out of Plastow is the most expensive. They're not going to charge a delivery fee. They're not charging a setup fee. They'll come in the day before, 1 or 2 days before actually, to set up, and then take down 1 or 2 days afterwards, depending on their schedule and, you know, what we say is really important to us. There was another company that was up in the Monadnocks, and for them, there is about a $500 delivery. He broke down all the individual costs again for a 60 by 30, and the bottom line was in the area of $3,900. And then there was a company in Exeter that was actually the most reasonable, which was $1,964. However, they're the ones that aren't available for September. They could do November, but not September. So I'm tossing this out because since I last called all these people on, I think Larry had me call on the 4th of August, a lot of them now are not available. So we probably should make a decision so that tomorrow you can tell me which one to go with, and let's get some kind of a commitment. The one in Plastow is not charging a deposit. And if we change our mind at the last minute, maybe we get a whole new location that we don't need the tents, there's no penalty for canceling at the last minute. The others, we will be signing a contract. Some of them require deposits, some don't. And so far, none of them are saying there's a penalty if we change our mind at the last minute. So I just wanted to toss that out there so that maybe you guys can kind of chat about this and give us some direction.
So Tricia, if I understand, sorry, Matt, if I understand this correctly, the company in Monadnock is $3,900 plus a $500 delivery.
Yep.
And the company in Plastow is $4,000 and no delivery.
Right. And the one in Plastow, that includes the lights. That price includes lights, 4 sides, like Bob and I discussed the sides. They open and close like curtains. So they include everything with no penalties and setup and no holes in the pavement. And it's interesting, the Monadnock company, I give him a lot of credit. He was quite nice to talk to. And when I said, he suggested that I call the one in Plastow. And when I told him I did, and I said, you know, the prices are high, I didn't say what they were. He said, you know, I have to tell you something. I've done business with them, and they are top of the line. They deal with high-end things, but they complete everything. They're great to do business with. He really gave them a raving review, considering they're his competition.
Aww.
But it sounds like the only other option we have, those two are very similar in cost.
Yes.
Does the Monadnock one not include the lights and sides and things?
No, so that includes the lights, that includes sides. The sides was the same as the Plastow company, about $480. And it's a $500 delivery and about $500 setup. So he is very close to the same. And I said, there's no problem with coming all the way to Newton. He said, no, not a problem at all. The other one was the one in Exeter, which was, you know, way less money, but they're not available for September.
Diane, do me a favor. Could you pull up the picture again? My main question is well, first of all, September 8th.
Yep.
If we do think we can get away with a small tent for September 8th, Recreation does have a tent
Ooh.
It's probably nothing compared to the size of one of these rent-a-tents, but it's something we could get by with. What is the purpose of the tent?
I'll let
Okay,
Bob Dismelik
let
answer
me jump
that.
in on that. The reason for the tent is that we have the issue of space for booths as required by law by the state. And as I noted, the plan lists the number of booths we need for the general election in November. The requirement there from the state is based on, we have to have one booth with quotes around it for every 100 voters on our checklist. And that's a hard state requirement. And as I said, that they were talking about waiving it, but they're not going to waive it until too late, as far as we can tell. So in that case, that means we need basically 33 booths, given the number of voters we have now, or actually had in June. So that is tough to fit in the space in the garage. If we use both garages, maybe it's still a problem. And then we need a tent that kind of covers the entrance at the front of the garage.
Hey.
So the idea of the tent is it gets us more space for more booths, gets a place where the check-in table can be, and lets people get easily into the two, garage bays where there may be more booths. We don't have the same requirement for a state primary. There we only need, it's like 22 booths because it's 1 per 150 voters. It's a different requirement. So, and realistically, there's going to be way less turnout on this upcoming primary than there is going to be in the general election. So we need a small tent. We might be able to make it work with no tent.
Yeah.
But the idea of having the small tent is that I'm not sure, and I can go over and I'll volunteer in a second. I think it's a good idea to go see how we're going to pack in enough booths into the garages. And if we can do that and still have enough space at the front, then all we need is a tent to keep the person at the front. If it starts raining, we don't want the rain coming in on the person right in the front who's handing stuff out, doing the check-in. So the tent could be quite small for the primary. We could almost get away without one, almost. But definitely we need one for the general election.
Somebody
Yeah, can
needs to
someone,
go on mute.
I muted Charlie. He was Charlie.
Okay, so what my advice would be is for September 8th, let's go with kind of in-house tents on September 8th and piece together something and then book now for November 3rd from the cheap guys, I'll call them. I'm sure they're called something else, but the cheap guys on November 3rd.
the ones in Exeter, put
Yeah.
it that way.
Right. Now, what about for the primary, Mr. Chairman? Does that mean you would want lights also, which I have the price for lights that were with those tents, but do we need freestanding lights depending on how Bob Dismelik is going to be setting up the people that are going to sit in this little tent?
Well, I'm just going to jump in. I think for the primary, if we're improvising the tents,
Yep.
we can improvise the lighting because
Okay.
we're not going to be relying on the tents. I mean, we're likely to be in a situation where we have a significant number of booths out in that tent for the general election, and there's a
Right.
bunch of people voting there, and then it's got to have lighting. It's got to be comfortable and usable and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But well ventilated, and it may be a little nippy because it's November, but ventilation is important. Whereas the purpose in the primary is really just to kind of get people in without, so there's a little vestibule, as it were, a way to kind of get in and maybe do some initial interaction spaced away a little bit from the ballot clerk. So there, I think, I have a 10 by 10 foot with sides and everything. That's very nice, which, gives us a little vestibule size kind of thing. And if we have another small tent or maybe a slightly larger tent from recreation, I think we'll be able to kind of cover the situation in the primary.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we tell Chief Jewett it's a crime scene, he can get us enough lights and tents, I think, probably to get us through on September 8th. So for the Exeter place, Trish,
Yep.
I'm sorry, were you saying, did they need a deposit?
She didn't say that they needed a deposit, but I told her that I was on your schedule tonight, and once I found which direction you wanted to go, I would call her tomorrow. She actually sent me, but I don't think I can get while my computer's in this stage. She already sent me the estimate she set for November. Said, let me at least do that for you, just in case. So we've got everything in writing. The only thing that I noticed on the estimate that was odd is that they're not digging, but maybe Chief Alcadino or Larry, you might know this. It said that they will contact DigSafe, which I'm not sure why they have to do if we're not digging any holes. So I need to confirm that it's sandbags or weights, no putting holes in the pavement. But other than that, I'll find out, Lisa. I'll get the answer to your question, and Matt, about the deposit.
So, so I guess the reason I asked that is, do we need a motion tonight? But it sounds like we do not. Does everybody agree, at least in concept, as I like to say, that we're gonna get Exeter on the books, and then we'll have a requisition to go in front of a board in the next couple meetings? Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yep, that sounds good.
She also recommended, when I talked about November, for the 60-30-10, 60 by 30-10, and it being November, I said, what kind of heaters for that square footage do you think we need? And she recommended 2, and those are $291 each. And so that would be on top of the $1,964 quote that she gave me. For everything else, heaters would be separate.
Okay, so we'll have to see. All right, I think we've tackled this one to death tonight. Anything else before we leave this topic tonight?
Just let me check with Charlie. I have to keep muting him because I think he's on his phone and on the iPad, on his PC. So let me unmute him and see if he has anything.
I do. Wow.
He's at the end of a tunnel.
Come on. Ah.
All right, we can hear you, Charlie. Maybe try it again. Get the question out.
He muted himself again.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Charlie. Charlie, if you can hear me, why don't you text me the question and
Can
I
you hear
will.
me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
He can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
929. Oh, you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
You see where the line? You see where the line is?
What
Going in?
line?
When you cross that piece of earth right there, it's all busted up. What are you gonna do with that?
Which piece of earth are you referring to?
In front of the police station where they park their cars. He's talking about,
He's talking right about here.
Right here.
yes,
Yep, right there.
yep.
That's all busted up. You're gonna have to go further up and go around.
Like this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I was thinking that would make for a nice longer waiting line too. If they continued up to where it says tent and then you turn back towards the front of the building.
The only thing is that you have parking here for your tenant.
Right.
So just so you know.
They could probably park across by the Butler building for that day.
Okay.
That way they can get out.
Or they can give everybody the day off. But that's a good point. Let's, if the team can work that into the plan.
I'll take a note of that.
Unmute yourself by pressing *6. You have been put. You are unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear you.
that's probably because you have your speakers muted, or I don't know what you have done. You can't hear me. Why am I talking?
Anybody know sign language?
It sounds like Charlie is on both the phone and
think
the
so.
computer,
Yes.
I think so.
and that's not working.
So I guess if Charlie can hear us, other than
You hear
the
me?
change because of the busted up concrete there, anything else on this?
Okay, where the arrow is, right around there. What are we gonna do with that?
Which arrow?
I don't know why I can't hear you guys.
We
I'm texting
discussed
him.
that, Charlie.
The one going in the driveway, going up the driveway, if you go up the driveway, right there, there's no hot top. It's a drop off. So that's gonna be needed.
I'm texting him.
Well, what's the plans?
So Charlie, we're gonna look at having them go up further and then turn and come back down so that they don't drive over the broken pavement. Did you hear that?
Nope.
Nope.
This,
Someone want to put a chat box up there and type what we're saying?
Actually, that's a good idea.
I don't think he knows how to use chat.
Or draw the new arrow so we can see what we're describing. That would work too.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know if I can do that with this, Lisa.
Well, I saw a comment box. Why don't you just type the comment? Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, could have done a little better. Okay.
gonna drive right off the edge.
Hopefully not.
Bob's gonna look
General
into it.
idea.
Yeah.
Bob's gonna look into it.
Yeah, I'll talk to Chief Jewett. He figured out the plan of where he wanted the cars to flow. It may be my arrows don't exactly capture his design. I'll make sure I got it right, because we clearly don't want people driving off the pavement or, you know,
Right.
running into things or anything like that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good.
All right. Anything else, Charlie?
Hmm.
All right. So I think we can continue on with the agenda. Bob, thank you for your efforts on this. And as we said, this won't be the last time we're talking.
No, I expect we'll be talking again. Thank you all very much. And, you know, feel free to follow up with me with any questions, and I'll plan on reporting back as soon as we have other things worked out, or if you have any questions, then I'll get together with Trish to get the 10th thing lined up for our, for both elections. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to try to hit some of these really fast. Item C from Recreation is just more of an FYI. I'd like to congratulate those on the team that are usually doing the senior luncheon. They've come up with an option where it'll be a takeaway meal type situation. So they're going to do a socially distant version of the senior luncheon. So we will be able to do it against the warrant article that's approved. And on August 26th, they're going to have a couple of days where they're going to do this to accommodate everyone, but they're working with the fire department in order to use the fire station as kind of the distribution point. And so I just wanted everybody to know that's good news. We're still able to provide to the seniors the luncheon they voted for. It just won't be all together. So, also, item D is the $9,000 donation that we were all expecting from the Friends of Rec. Side note, the playground system, I guess you'd say, all the equipment has been ordered, tentative delivery date mid-October. So the site work's going to be done in order to lead up to that. So what we need to do tonight, if somebody wants to make the motion, is accept.
I move to accept the $9,000 donation from the Friends of Recreation per RSA 31:95-B for the purpose of purchasing playground equipment for Greenie Park revitalization project.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Any discussion?
Just quick, Nancy, does it have to say that it's going to go into the revolving account, or does it matter?
I think it was already agreed that's where it's going.
Okay. Good.
All right, so we'll do the roll call vote. Lisa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Charlie?
He's trying to come in again to his phone this
All right.
time.
Maybe we'll get him. Matt's and I, so we're going to consider that unanimous, at least for right now, until we get Charlie back in. And our thanks to, as we've said before, to the Friends of Rec for leading the way on this. And 9,000 goes a long way. Obviously, the voters are paying for a lot of it too, that they approved. But thank you to the Friends of Rec. All right.
Matt,
Go ahead,
Matt.
Charlie.
I'm a yes on that too.
Thank you. Okay, so unanimous by 5. Thank you. All right. Item E is the filing for the MS1 extension. Nancy, did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, we can't get the DRA utility values until October. So Andrea's doing the statistical update. So we automatically filed for a 1-month extension because there's no way we'll have it done for September 1st. So it's just letting the board know that we've got the extension. They approved it already.
All right, good. Live to deal with that another day.
Yep.
All right, F is review bid spec for the landscaping contract. So this is what our RFP is going to look like, Diane, is that?
Yeah, this is the letter that will go out. And I do have the RFP here if you want to look at it.
Okay.
Oh, that's not it. Where'd it go? There it is. There it is. So I included Greenie Park in this. I mean, not Greenie Park, I'm sorry, the town beach.
Yep.
Because it seems like we really want to get that done. So at the town beach, if we scroll down here, I only put in that they would do a spring and fall cleanup and then trim the area once a month.
Yep. I like it. And everybody on the board like it. We'll get some numbers from some vendors and then review when we get them in.
Yes.
Yeah, I took a look at both of the documents and I have no issue with either.
Okay.
So,
basically, it's the same information that we used prior.
right.
Just updated a few things on it.
Right, we have a different landscape footprint nowadays. The only thing I would add is it's been our experience that sometimes it's hard to get bids. So Diane, just let us know if you're having trouble getting bids.
Yep.
And we can kind of rattle some, what would it be? Rattle the bushes, since it's landscaping, I can say rattle the bushes and see if we can get some more bids. So thank you.
Okay.
Matt,
Charlie.
Matt, yeah. I have another proposal. Remember I told you way back I had a proposal to present to the board?
I think so.
Well, yep. All right. This is my proposal. We lost Mark at as the road agent, the part-time guy at the road agent. So my proposal is hire another full-time person under the road agent and have the road agent handle the mowing process. Now, what I did is I checked The town paid in 2019 $42,000 on a contract, and the cemetery in 2019 paid $13,500 for a total of $55,500. Now, if we hired a guy, and also what I did is I talked to Kim today, and I had her go over the cost. It would roughly be about $5 an hour for all the bennies that individual would be having. If we hired him at $15 an hour, we'd be paying him $31,200 a year, $600 a week. If we hired him at the $20 an hour, we'd be paying him $800 a week at $41,600. Now, this person can do the shoveling in the winter, minor building repairs, and take the trash to the transfer station for Greenie Park, the beach, the fire police, town hall. So we'd save money on all the dumpsters. But also he would be doing is he would be mowing the cemeteries as well and do extra repairs. So I think maybe we might want to look at that way to do it. Because he lost Mark anyway, and he has no problems with doing it. I spoke to him about it, but he said he would need another full-time guy. This guy could be doing the things that we normally have to do, or we're looking for somebody to do. Now, I also talked to Mike Jewett, and he's looking into that military thing for getting us a truck, a trailer, and some lawnmowers, which would be a great start. And this stuff could be kept in the Butler building with the doors that are facing towards Chet Bierce's property. I think this is a good idea.
So my just kind of gut reaction, and we'll hear from the rest of the board, but my gut reaction is I think we need to see the hard numbers. And the thing that concerns me is wear and tear that on the lawn mowing equipment that we've never had to incur specifically before. Obviously, I'm sure they write it into their quotes, but we would be, to me, I always bring up the example of the snow plows. We don't own any snow plows. We contract out with people to do the snow plowing, and it's their requirement to provide the equipment. But that's just me, and I think we need to see some numbers in a spreadsheet all kind of lined up. But what's the rest of the board think?
I agree. I don't have enough information to vote one way or the other. So I am open to seeing more of a package of information provided, a cost analysis and comparison, not just in salary or, the contract of landscaper versus a full-time employee. Because the cost of the full-time employee would vary depending on what base rate we set them at or what pay rate we set them at. It's not just the health benefits or vacations or retirement, but also the pay rate itself. Also, if it's replacing the open part-time laborer position on the road crew, then how much of that time is going to be spent on the road crew in the summertime and still be able to do all of the lawn work. Also, we have the spring cleanup, the fall cleanup. This is work that is done by multiple people on the crew, on the land, from the contractor, but we'd have one person to do it all. Would it be able to get done in a timely fashion if it's just one person doing all of the work? And then, like you said, Matt, the concern would be, okay, we have someone looking into lawnmowers and trailers and things like that, but that means they're going to be used. What is the life expectancy of those? How soon are we going to have to replace them? What is it going to cost us to replace them? Plus the operating costs of fuel, the trimmers, the whatever else we need for gardening tools in order to prepare the fields. Those are all the things that I would want to see.
What's the rest of the board think?
I would have to agree with Lisa and you. I mean, it could sound promising, but there are a lot of other considerations to make it a cost savings. Especially she points out one person doing Greenie Park. I mean, I'm even looking at my own lawn. Wow, that would be a huge job. You know what I mean? So we need more information to see how it pans out, and upkeeping the equipment. You know, there's pros and cons, but we need more information.
So Matt, I like the idea, I like Charlie's idea of hiring a full-time person, but there's no reason why we can't still go out to bid. We're not committing anything.
Sure.
And Charlie can work on getting his spreadsheet up and running, and then when it's time, we can just compare both of them and then make a decision then.
Yeah, the good news is we're not signing any agreements tonight, so I think we have time to get, as Larry just said, the quotes, and somebody can come up with a business case, and we
Oh,
can.
and there's one more thing to mention is some of the off-hour or off-item tasks that was mentioned that this new hire could do actually falls into the duties of an existing employee. And what are we going to do with that existing employee if we're taking those tasks and giving them to this new hire? Something else to consider.
Tony doesn't shovel. Tony don't go to the dump.
Yes, he does.
Just maybe the town hall, but he don't do every place else.
Yes, he
And
does.
So I don't want to talk about a particular individual.
Yeah.
I am talking about a particular position. And I'm talking about the minor repairs. There's yard work that is done in front of town hall that is already taken care of by the same position. So we just need to look at any overlap and what it's going to do to the existing position, as well as if the yard work or lawn work or mowing at Greenie Park or the museum or police station safety complex is taking longer, who will get priority, the lawn care or the road care? Because now they got to get roads repaired, patched, etc. Does our mowing only happen when the road agent doesn't need them on the road patching? Things like that have to be considered.
So if I think everybody on the board okay with leaving this for tonight. Again, we'll get the RFP out there. Just because we're getting bids doesn't mean we have to take any of them. We're just getting information. And at the same time, those who want to work together on the business case to do something different can also put that together. And the good news is we don't really have to have something like this signed next week or anything like that. We have a little time.
Yeah, I'm all for the most cost-effective way to handle things.
Sure.
But I don't have enough information today in order to say that's the way to go. So I definitely encourage getting more details and a cost analysis between the two.
So do you still want me to send out this RFP?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure, because it'll come back. I told them they have to be back by September 14th.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
I
good
don't-
with that?
I don't think anybody has an issue. They can speak up if they do, but sending out a RFP doesn't commit us to anything.
Okay,
All right. Everybody good with that agenda item for tonight anyway? Okay, so I think all of us, at least on the board, attended the Zoom New Hampshire DOT meeting on Thursday night. Basically, if anyone missed it, it's on our YouTube channel, right, Diane?
yeah, it's on the
Okay.
website, YouTube.
So I saw it out there. I'd encourage people to go review it. Basically, I think what it all comes down to is we don't get to decide what they're going to do, but they're at least soliciting our opinion, I guess is what you would say. And they wanted to get our town's feedback by, what was it, mid-September or end of September, I
Yes.
think? So what I would recommend to the board is we pick one of these upcoming meetings and we have essentially a public hearing for people to voice their interest in it. It basically, for those who haven't seen it, it's basically two options, roundabout or four-way stop. I guess potentially you could have an option three. Opinions are opinions, but we could invite the public to attend and solicit their feedback, and then the board could kind of do essentially a vote that would be non-binding, but we could come up with an agreement on a letter we could send to DOT saying, based on our public hearings, this is what people seem to be most interested in. And again, it would just be a set of information to share with NHDOT. In the end, they could just do what they think is right. But I think we should get that on the calendar. What's everybody think?
Agreed.
And obviously we could solicit emails, whatever, from people who cannot attend in person, so to speak. Everybody okay with that?
Are you talking Zoom meeting, correct?
I believe so.
Oh,
Unless
but
anything else.
stay in person and someone's gonna think that you're gonna have some physical location. So a Zoom meeting, okay.
Yeah. If everybody's okay with that.
I am.
How's everybody else on the board?
I'm good.
Larry, Kate's on mute.
Good.
So I think September 1st is filling up. So maybe September 15th.
Didn't they say they wanted to hear by mid-September?
They said a month.
I don't know. What's September 1st looking like so far on the agenda?
I'm gonna go check it. You think I'd know by now, I've looked at it so many times.
I don't think that would give us time to post and everything for a
Well,
public
that's true,
hearing.
too.
That's what I was thinking, but if we just said it's a public meeting, or just a meeting and just put it on the agenda, would that help, Nancy?
I don't know, somehow we gotta make the people understand we want their input. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I don't think the public hearing requirements will apply that I think Diane's talking about.
Mhm.
But to Nancy's point, you need enough advertising time
Right.
so that we're not talking to an empty room, so to speak.
And you don't want somebody coming back later and saying, well, I didn't know about it. They didn't have a public hearing or whatever, you know.
Right, right.
You don't want, you know, that to come back on us that we didn't do it right either.
Right.
Well,
But on the flip side, the residents have had several opportunities to express
agree.
their opinion, including this past fall at the DOT meeting itself, and
Mm.
then the one that we have. And of course, we see their opinions on Facebook. But I'm just saying, there's plenty of opportunities to be heard. So even if they can't be at the meeting, just getting the word out that email your selectmen, you know, what
Yep.
your preference is for Rose Corner.
I agree.
just so you know, you asked me about September 1st, and right now you have EOC update, the 2021 heating season fuel prices, and review process for submitting requisitions. That's all you have right now.
Yeah, I still think September 1st is too close.
Okay.
So September 15th, don't don't quote me on this and edit this out of the video, but I don't think the state DOT moves really fast. So I'm wondering if we had a meeting on September 15th and had a letter out to them by, say, the following Tuesday, I think we might be okay.
I think so.
Okay, so September 15th, the public hearing, got it.
I have to be careful now traveling state roads, I think.
Okay. So do you want that meeting at 6, 7, the public hearing?
Why don't we do it at 7? Everybody okay with that?
That's fine.
I don't know if I can make it. It's my birthday.
Okay, you're officially given the night off, but
Mm.
we can, if you have any comments, you can provide them beforehand, I guess.
Okay, so public hearing, September 15th at 7 PM. Okay,
Great. All right, we good to leave this one?
I believe so.
All right, so we have other business. Any other business?
Where is it? There's your manifest.
All right. Anybody want to,
All right, I will move to sign the vendor manifest dated August 18, 2020 in the amount of $49,158.64.
must be no school payment.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Matt's and I. So that's unanimous.
I move to sign the police special details manifest dated August 18, 2020 in the amount of $569.30.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Matt's and I. It's unanimous.
All right. I move to sign cable revolving fund manifest dated August 18, 2020 in the amount of $2,360, no cents.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Matt is an aye, and that's unanimous. Last
Right.
one.
And I move to sign payroll manifest for pay period August 2 through 15, 2020 with a pay date of August 20, 2020.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Matt's and I. All right, moving on down to the approval of minutes, everybody. Anybody want to do that one?
I move to approve the Selectmen's public meeting minutes dated August 12 and August 13, 2020.
Matt will second. Okay, roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Matt's and I. Anybody need to unseal anything for any reason? All right, so at this point, I'll entertain, if anybody's got a motion to go into non-public to continue the meeting, we can adjourn the public.
I was going to say, I think it's important to let the public know if there's public members on here that we will only be coming out to adjourn the public meeting itself. There's no other public topics so that they don't hang on to here waiting for us.
Yep.
And in which case, I move to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Section 2, subsection A, compensation at 7:25 p.m.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Roll call vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
and Matt's and I. So thank you, everyone, for your attention for the public meeting tonight. And have a good night. And we'll be going into non-public right now. Thanks.